So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Kathy Lynch, who will then be providing, I probably ought to just shut this down, but maybe just put on the overhead here. So Kathy Lynch, I thank you for helping and doing all of the things that you've been doing, and I'll let you introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you everybody for being here. This is such an exciting day. This is sort of the beginning of a brave new world for all of us, and it's really tough to introduce the keynote speaker today because he is absolutely the reason we're all here today. He is a legacy. He formed one of the first in California community recycling centers. At 22, he was elected to the city council at a time when we were all trying to figure out what we were going to do when we grew up. And he then went on to the Board of Supervisors. He's been a state senator. He was an inaugural member of the Integrated Waste Management Board. He's most recently been an assemblyman, and he's the author of AB 1826. The reason we're all here. And he was the chair of the Assembly Natural Resources. He's been a pioneer and a leader on environmental issues, from climate change to forestry practices. I know that the organics issue has been a passion for him for most of his adult life, and it's my distinct pleasure to introduce Assemblyman Wesley Chesbrough.
It's okay if I just kind of flip this down?
Yes.
Well, good morning, and it is really a privilege to be with you this morning. I appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to be here at this very historic and important moment in the history of recycling in general, recycling of organics in particular. I can't tell you how exciting it is to see the growth in this industry. It's been both amazing and very gratifying over my 40-year career to see how things have changed and how far we've come, as evidenced today by this first of its kind Compost Summit. Waste diversion and recycling is California's great unsung success story. Kind of amazing to me how much we take it for granted. It was creating green jobs starting back after Earth Day in the 70s before anybody ever thought of the term green jobs, and now has created upwards of 150,000 jobs in this state. So it's a great unsung success story, but now we stand at the precipice of organics finally taking its full and rightful place in that mix as leading the country and the world and demonstrating what needs to be done to protect the planet, but also to change our whole view of materials and to recognize the economic opportunities that we've been foregoing so long by being a disposable society. The one other thing, and I'm getting off track already here, just feeling kind of ecstatic, but the other thing that distinguishes organics, one of our failures in recycling has been to develop domestic markets adequately. We've done some good stuff. Some of it in my assembly district I'm very proud of, but you know, the lion's share of the material has been shipped overseas to be remanufactured elsewhere. Organics, you don't ship organics overseas to be remanufactured. It's going to create the production jobs, and has created the production jobs right here in our own communities, in our own state. So that's a very important distinction, and so it never got really talked about during the discussion of my bill, but it's really one of the things that's going to help to offset that one shortcoming in the AB 939 vision that we haven't adequately fulfilled, which is to develop markets here. Many of you are aware, and just got pointed out, that I've been involved in recycling since I was a college student. After Earth Day in 1971, I was, along with some other ragtag bunch of students and Cub Scouts and others, we started the Arcata Community Recycling Center. And we've come a long way since. Recycling was a crazy thing that got done in college towns, you know, Santa Cruz, Davis, Arcata, Berkeley. I think Santa Monica was in there too early on, but at that time, nobody much other than true blue, youthful, idealistic environmentalists really saw recycling as a big deal. We've come a long way since then, thanks to legislation that has helped us to move in the right direction. We've grown and evolved over the last 40 years in our understanding of what needs to be done and to keep us moving in that direction. And it's been very rewarding to be able to play a role in that. In 1989 and into the 1990s, as was mentioned, I was able to be an inaugural member of the Integrated Waste Management Board, and we were charged with implementing AB 939, which put into place a 50% solid waste diversion goal, which at the time was unheard of and arbitrary, and many thought, the naysayers said impossible. And that diversion goal, both statewide and for local jurisdictions, was to be accomplished by the year 2000. Well, in spite of the naysayers, we got there. It wasn't in 2000, it was 2004, I think, if I remember correctly. As monumental a task as that was, what we realized when we got there is it was just the beginning. And we had still many, many more things to be done. And really, as hard as some of you in this room were working to make organics, move organics to the center of things, it wasn't at the center of things. And we, in terms of the percentages, we have lagged. AB 32, the Global Warming Solutions Act of 2006, groundbreaking legislation, which I was proud to have been able to co-author. This landmark legislation, as you know, requires the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions to 1990 levels by the year 2020. In order to accomplish this, we knew there was a lot we had to get done, and chief among them was working harder to reduce what we put into our landfills, particularly organics. So in 2011, I authored AB 341, which was passed and signed by the governor that same year. The law raises California's diversion requirement to 75% of its waste from our landfills by 2020, and also mandated commercial recycling, which was kind of a less direct but initial step towards what we're here to talk about today, because a whole lot of that commercial waste is in fact organics. California disposes of 30 million tons of waste in landfills each year, and it's estimated approximately 30% of that is compostable organic material. So there's your feedstock. We just have to get it in your hands. Food continues to be the highest single item disposed of, making up more than 15% of waste sent to landfills. The Air Resources Board has determined that by meeting the 75% goal established in AB 341, greenhouse gas emissions from waste could be reduced by 25%. As the Integrated Waste Management Board was in 1989 with AB 939, Cal Recycle is now charged with implementing AB 341 and leading California's drive towards a 75% reduction. This will be achieved through source reduction and recycling, including a combination of composting and anaerobic digestion. For us to reach this goal, we'll need to divert up to 22 million tons of waste currently going to California landfills every year. And composting is vital to this equation. Locally produced compost is a valuable soil amendment for local food production and cycles food scraps back to the soil. Composting is a key element in soil health and decreases the amount of methane produced by organic waste, thereby lessening its effects on climate change and creating good green jobs. As we know, food and other organic waste produces significant amounts of methane, and methane is a relatively short-lived atmospheric lifetime, but produces immediate and significant climate impacts. The methane produced from our landfills is a major source of emissions, contributing to global climate change. Its global warming potential is 25 times higher than carbon dioxide. Diverting organic waste to higher uses will have an immediate and positive effect in reducing GHG emissions. And landfills emit the majority of man-made methane emissions in California. I don't think most people realize that. We're focused on a whole lot of the sources. So if we're going to achieve California's greenhouse gas emission reduction goals, we need better management aimed specifically at organic waste that's currently going into the landfill. To that end, as was mentioned several times, I authored AB 1826, which is modeled after AB 341 and establishes a pathway to help us reach the goals of both AB 341 and AB 32. It does so by requiring that the largest generators of organic waste take full advantage of recycling services in their communities. AB 1826 will help California reach air quality, greenhouse gas, and waste reduction goals by focusing on diverting organic materials from landfills and by phasing out all landfill disposal of organic waste over time. And of course, as positive byproducts, the recycling of the organics will dramatically increase the flow of raw materials for composters, as well as generating clean renewable energy. Recycling organics can generate up to 68 million gallons of low carbon transportation fuels or 450 megawatts of renewable energy. and the resulting increase in compost production and use will improve the condition of California's agricultural soils by encouraging beneficial microbial growth, providing nutrients, and reducing the amount of water necessary for irrigation. So I'm happy to report that the AB 1826 passed both houses and was signed by the governor on September 28th. Earlier in the two-year session, it didn't look like quite such a sure thing, even though I have to tell you we had a coalition of support that was stronger than any other legislation I've ever worked on. So it was I won't go into the problems that caused the initial problem, but early in the two-year session, but all's well that ends well. And I really want to, even though they weren't able to officially endorse, I want to thank both Cal Recycle and the Air Board for their work on letting the governor know how important this is in order to move forward with the existing goals that we have in the state, including AB 32, which he cares very much about. Another bill important to all this is Assemblyman Doss Williams' AB 1594. And this bill will make some very important changes with regard to how organic waste can be dealt with. Under this bill, the use of organic waste as alternative daily cover, or ADC, will no longer be considered recycling. And you know, it's astounding that for all of these years, we've had a approved practice that says you can have the curbside household separate out their green waste, put it in the container, have it hauled back to the landfill, and put it in the landfill and call it recycling. But it has been the practice. Now, the actual volume relative to what you all are talking about here is not that great, but as a removal of hypocrisy and just ridiculous policy, it is a great symbolic victory and will contribute substantially as well to the larger issue. As we all know, federal law requires landfills to be covered at the end of each workday. While landfills are traditionally covered with soil, the rationale for ADC was that, well, if you're using organic material instead of soil, you're recycling. We asked Californians to separate their yard trimmings into a separate container. It's fair to assume that they expect the material to be composted, but they are likely unaware that much of that organic material has been flowing back into the landfill for use as ADC. And that practice really weakened the integrity of our overall commitment to recycling. And just a personal story to show how it plays out, and I'm amazed the news media, you know, since it is such an obvious example of policy hypocrisy, that we didn't get more focus on this. But my brother, who is a arborist in Southern California, and who dutifully hauled his trimmings further than he would have had to in order to bring them to the collection site for green waste, when he found out it was going back in the landfill, he said, forget it, why have I been going to the trouble of doing that? And was really pretty unhappy because he felt that as a business person he was doing his part by separating that material and taking it to the recycling drop-off, what he thought was a recycling drop-off. So I'll have to let him know that, you know, sometime in the future he can resume hauling those materials. So under AB 1594, by January 1st, 2020, it's a long ways off, these compromises we make in the legislative process, green waste used as ADC will no longer constitute diversion through recycling. And this bill was also passed by both houses and recently signed by the governor. So AB 32 and AB 341, AB 1826, as well as AB 1594 will go a long way to increasing our efforts to recycle and ensure the appropriate management of organic materials. Helping communities and businesses divert organic waste from the landfill and utilize it in this way is a major part of how we will be phasing out organic waste going to landfills entirely and reducing landfill impacts on climate. I encourage you to stay involved in this process, especially in the early stages of implementation of AB 1826, AB 1594. You know, it's real easy after a couple of decades to look back at the implementation of AB 939 and have it look like it was just a walk in the park, right? You know, look what we did. But in fact, there were constant adjustments, and we need to, as we learned what the hiccups were, what the pitfalls, I'm mixing my metaphors, but what the problems were, and we had to make adjustments to get there. And that will be true with these programs as well. So, but the way we know what those problems are and what needs to be done to fix them is the practitioners, the people who are out there doing the work, working with Cal Recycle to implement this in a way that is both beneficial for the business side of it and workable and practical and isn't too much of a burden for local governments, but also keeps us on a steady path towards getting it done. We're moving forward in a positive way with regard to what and how we throw away unwanted material. It's quite amazing to think that in many of our childhood, before some of you were even born, but not that long ago, we had a mayor in Los Angeles who got elected promising to stop curbside separation of materials, and that was the issue that elected him, because people really weren't interested in dealing with the actual implications of their habits, their consuming habits and their practices. And when I first got involved as a local official in waste reduction and recycling, in fact, I was sort of involved the whole time as a city council member and county supervisor, coming to Sacramento and serving on various task forces and working groups. I was virtually the only elected official in this local elected official in the state who was interested in the subject back in the 70s. It was most local officials, it was just get it off the streets by dawn, don't make too much noise, and don't charge us too much, and that's all we care about. And so I mean, when you think about that, and you really have to realize what an amazing breakthrough it was, but you know, we still in our culture have ingrained in us that disposal, throwaway mentality, and so we're going to have to continue to work to not only bring about political and economic change, but also cultural change. So this garbage that we continue to throw into landfills, that should be usable materials, continues to stay in much of our lives in a very destructive way. It's taken a while to change our thinking, and now more than ever, we need to work to complete that transition. AB 939 brought about some important and dramatic changes with regard to how much waste we should divert. AB 341 further increases that goal, and AB 1826 designed to focus more on specific types of waste we need to divert, and 1594 makes it clear that organic waste used as ADC is not diversion. So as a result, we're on the way. We're standing at the precipice. And you are the folks, along with the local communities that adopt ordinances and franchises and work with the hauling industry. You are the folks who are going to make this happen. So it's very exciting to have been part of this movement, to see how far it's come. As I get ready to leave the legislature after 16 years, and after 40 years of working to reduce our waste in the private sector, as a waste board member and as a member of the legislature, it feels good to know we're on a path that will make a real difference and help us move into a healthy and sustainable future. I'm very pleased for the opportunity to be with you today and talk with you at this first Compost Summit. Let's hope that you have many more in the future, and that you'll outgrow this room and be adding more and more folks who want to help make this vision a reality. And thank you for playing the role in such an important change in our economy and our culture. So thanks very much.
I'd like to not only thank Assemblymember Chesbro, but also we realized that more than having him come and speak at the first annual Compost Summit, that we wanted to acknowledge all the work that you've done over the last 40 years. And so with this inaugural summit, we're also creating an inaugural award, which we're calling the ACP California Compost Leadership Award. So go ahead and hold that. And we have a little bit of the point of the award is that ACP leadership and members express their deep appreciation for a lifetime of dedication and results for increasing the amount of recycled organics and compost being produced and beneficially used in California. So we award you this first annual Compost Leadership Award for all the work you've done over the last 40 years. So thank you very much. I'd like it if everybody could acknowledge the fact that not only has he done this work, I know all of you have been in the trenches for a long, long time, and are all been supportive of the work, as you said, the tacticians who really make it happen, but we can't make it happen collectively without the work that the leaders are doing. So Thank you very much. Would all of you join and
I hope you all can tell this is a heartfelt passion of mine, and so that makes this doubly, triply more meaningful to me because it's something that I care so much about, and to have all of you recognize me really touches me deeply. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks again.
Very much.
Oh, yeah. Thanks again. Oh, you should also get one. Your goodie bag.
Thank you.
So, thank you. I guess we can all go home now. Or no, maybe we should sing. I was a Boy Scout, and we used to always, at times like this, we used to always kind of end these presentations by singing Kumbaya. So, Kumbaya, yeah. Come by here, Lord.